Bucks Patriots, 3 days away. We're bringing in our former Patriot, Coach Eric Mangini. Take us inside the mind of Bill Belichick ahead of the big game. Let's go. The Brooklyn Nets enter the season as title favorites. Do they need to win it all this season if they have any chance of keeping James Harden in Brooklyn? And coming off a second straight loss, is Patrick Mahomes under the most duress heading into week 4? Good Thursday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Alongside Nick and Chris Broussard, Kevin Wilds, I'm Jenna Wolfe. Broussard,
what are we doing?
Mahomes has to be close to, if not at the top of that duress list, no? If for no other reason to annoy Nick.
Shaking in his boots.
I
see Nick shaking. His boy might be on the list.
Oh, boy. Boy. All right. We'll get to all that. But New England is where we start this morning. The long-awaited, highly anticipated Bucks, Pats, Sunday night. Brady's return to Foxborough. A new book coming out by Seth Wickersham detailing the Patriots' dynasty during Brady and Belichick's 20-year run together and how the relationship deteriorated by the end. One excerpt said Brady wanted to have a face-to-face meeting with Belichick before officially leaving town, but Bill would not make himself available. Instead said they could just talk on the phone. Breakups are rough. Looking at you, Mike DeVito. Nope. Belichick was asked about that yesterday. Take a listen.
No, that's not true. And I heard a few things about, this book, and sounds like it's a lot of, second, third, and fourth hand comments. So, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to focus on this game and try to prepare for the Bucks.
All right, Nick Wright, what was your reaction to the latest report on Brady and Belichick?
Yeah, it's not surprising, but it's also shocking. And I know that sounds incongruous. When I say it's not surprising that Belichick would continue, reportedly the stance of Brady's one of 53. But when you step away from it, it's shocking that Belichick never wavered on that stance, that Brady's one of 53. Because another thing that's reported in this book is that in that phone call, Bill Belichick told Tom Brady he's the greatest player the league has ever seen. So one would have thought Bill Belichick might have taken a lesson from one of his football mentors, which is when a player, Bill Parcells, that is, when a player such as that comes into your football life, you treat them differently. Bill Parcells had that with Lawrence Taylor. Bill Parcells was as much of a hard son of a gun as Bill Belichick is, and yet had different rules for Lawrence Taylor because Lawrence Taylor was so great and so transcendent, it made sense. And by the way, it didn't cause some rift in the locker room because all the other players knew, well, I'm not Lawrence Taylor, so he has special rules. Belichick would never bend like that for Tom, up to and including the very end. And because of that, it's not surprising that he only did a phone call or a FaceTime or a text rather than sitting and talking with him. But Broussard, I think that is ultimately why right now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have one of the best quarterback tight end combos in all of football in Brady to Gronk. And the Patriots are out there trying to piece it together with Mac Jones, Jonnu Smith, and Hunter Henry because Belichick had the greatest player ever and one of the greatest tight ends ever and treated them just like QB1 and TE1 on the roster. And that eventually wore thin for these guys.
Right. Well, let me first address Belichick's denial, right? He said it's not true. I don't think he was denying that he didn't meet with Brady face to face. I think he was denying the motivation, at least as alleged in the book. The book said he didn't want to meet with Brady face to face, implying that it was out of some disdain or lack of respect for Tom Brady. I think that is what Belichick was denying, that I did not meet with Tom because I don't like him or I was ticked off or whatever it may be. The schedules just were conflicting and we couldn't get together. I think that's what Belichick means. Now, look, Belichick didn't break any rules or laws by not sitting down with Tom Brady face to face. And I can, knowing Belichick and the way he's operated these 20 years, you can see that I can see how he would be like, look, you're gone. Let me move on and find who my replacement will be for Tom Brady. Down the line, when you're retired, maybe we'll meet and hug and yuck it up about the old times. But right now, I got business to take care of in replacing you. So he's fully within his rights to do that. But after 20 years together, after doing what no other coach and quarterback combination, heck, no other franchise has ever done, you would think he would sit down with Brady. That's the right thing to do. All right. It's just ill-mannered not to do it. It's like if you are about to tell your spouse you want to divorce them, and you call them on the phone and tell them, rather than meeting them in person and telling them face to face. Is it wrong to do it over the phone? Not necessarily, but it's just a bit rude. You think you owe them more than that. And that's how I look at this. Now, ultimately, I think this episode just illustrates the differences in Belichick and Brady. The book by Seth Wickersham also says, Nick, that the Patriots did a study of the great winners of our generation, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Tom Brady. And they found out that Brady was unlike the other three in that he was at his best, not when he had a chip on his shoulder, but when he was in a loving and supportive environment. So clearly Brady is about relationships, emotions, friendships, things like that. Belichick's the opposite. Belichick does not get emotionally attached to his players. So I think the differences in these two guys, Wiles, is illustrated in the way they parted ways over the phone rather than in person.
Yeah, well, I think you made a lot of interesting points there, Broussard. First of all, the book is coming out in October, which I'm going to buy. I would also buy that study that Belichick commissioned about great athletes. I'm fascinated by it. Belichick's like, I want to learn more about these guys. The one thing that I know that you referenced, like Brady thrives in a loving environment. That seemed at odds with the fact that he always talks about being 199 and the Brady six, I think, the six quarterbacks taken, and he tears up. Like, he does have a huge chip on his shoulder, this manufactured rage I think they were talking about Tiger and Jordan having. So I don't know. I'm interested in that study if it ever gets released. Maybe Seth can put it out as an audiobook. And about Belichick's denials. Seth Wickersham, this is actually like the second huge thing he wrote about the Patriots. This is the book. But in 2018, he dropped this bombshell of an article for ESPN, the magazine, and he was largely raked over the coals for this. The Belichick said it wasn't true. A lot of people in New England media said it wasn't true. And guess what? It was all true. Everything that is in that article was true. That Brady had issues with Belichick's bracing style, that Jimmy Garoppolo's, being in the building was an issue, so Belichick had to ship him out, and then TB12, all the TB12 stuff, Belichick wasn't down with it, and how Tom Brady was kind of forcing that into the locker room, and guys were going out TB12. That was all true. So the idea that any of these things are going to be sort of, I don't know, counterbalance, I don't know, it's second and third hand reports. Like, Belichick, I love you. The reasons why it's second and third hand reports is because Seth probably asked you, would you like to do an interview? And you said no. So if you say no to an interview request, you can't go and do a press conference and be like, second, third report. Like, all right, well, answer your phone. But the question I have for you, I'm going to send it to Broussard, because you sort of talked about other athletes. This is the central question that I think I am trying to unwrap on the last 20 years and what I'm looking forward to trying to figure out in this book. Is emotional ruthlessness a necessary partner with greatness? Whether you're emotionally ruthless to yourself, like Tiger Woods kind of living a life that sort of demanded greatness, or so he thought, or Jordan's ultimate competitiveness where he's going to bet on everything from golf games to quarters against the wall, that you have to always be on that edge. And is that unsustainable over the course of 20 years? That eventually there's an end to it because the ruthlessness that it takes to be great is unsustainable.
That's a great question. The biggest example to me of a guy that I don't think is ruthless, who's as great as just about anybody would be LeBron. Now, LeBron will do what he's got to do. Nick mentioned yesterday how when LeBron left Miami, it kind of left Dwayne Wade in a lurch and cost him some money. So he will do in Cleveland. When he left Cleveland and went to Miami, he had teammates he was close to that were expecting to know what was going on, and he didn't talk to him and tell him. So LeBron will do what he's got to do for himself to win, but I don't view him as ruthless in the way you do a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan. So I'll throw that out there. Also, you made an interesting point about Brady and the study. Okay, it said that he thrives in a loving and supportive environment, but was that the case in New England? I don't think he had a loving and supportive environment in New England, and he won 6 Super Bowls. So that does make you wonder what in the world was going on with that study, and it seems like it's in contrast to Brady's career, Nick.
Go ahead, Jenna. Go ahead.
Does this surprise you, Nick? Bill Belichick is exactly who he's been for the last 20 years. I can't imagine you read this and you were like, I am shocked that he didn't meet face to face. Like, I feel like everyone is who they are. They're all played into their own roles.
The not face to face part was somewhat surprising. You're right. It's not a huge departure of character, but Broussard mentioned LeBron. Listen, LeBron left the Heat in a way obviously Pat Riley didn't want, Dwayne Wade didn't want. But Dwayne Wade was on that airplane with him and LeBron told it because they had a personal relationship. They had the conversation, they were together, and then LeBron went off and did his own thing, right? And the relationship was able to sustain that, betrayal's the wrong word, but LeBron leaving for greener pastures, if you would. There's a big, I understand it's another network, but PTI is celebrating its 20th anniversary. It would be shocking if one of those guys left the other and it was like, hey, Tony, have you talked to Mike? It's like, well, we texted, but I haven't seen him. It's like, wow, how deep was that relationship really? And so I just think that the fact that the not getting face-to-face is a real thing. And to me, it's further indicative that Belichick believed I must treat everyone the same. That is part of the system. I must not make exceptions. I must not, if I'm always get out early rather than late, that extends to Brady, and it appears to have become, Jenna, what I think is going to be, without a doubt, the biggest mistake of his professional career.
All right, the book is called It's Better to Be Feared by Seth Wickersham. We actually have the author, Seth Wickersham, joining us tomorrow morning. She'll share more insight into the relationship between player and coach, their run in New England. We are looking forward to having him on tomorrow morning. All right, we got to take a turn. It's a good conversation. Talk some basketball. James Harden ready for year 2 in Brooklyn. Will there be a year 3 and 4 in Brooklyn? Do the Nets need to win a title this season for Harden to stick around long term? Talk about the former MVP's future next. First things first. Drawing a blank. We move on. NBA season right around the corner. Among the stories we're following, James Harden, the 32-year-old Nets superstar, ready to run it back with KD and Kyrie this season. But he does have a player option after this year. So where does he stand on a contract extension in Brooklyn? Well, Harden was asked about it yesterday. Take a listen.
You seem focused, and I know you mentioned to the general media that you need to just be in the right mindset to sign a contract extension. What is that right mindset?
I think the course of my career, I've never been a free agent before, so I've always just been, loyal and just signing, a contract extension and just being there. I just want to take my time with it. It's gonna be very, very difficult to leave here, or even to leave Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. But I think this season I just want to focus on winning a championship, and everything else will work itself out.
Winning a championship, everything tends to work itself out.
Facts.
It is. That's facts. Winning it all makes everything feel better. Broussard, James Harden's comments on his future with the Nets are blank.
Jenna, they are KD-esque. KD as in Kevin Durant-esque. Watching that interview, it did make me wonder, is this a Kevin Durant Golden State situation? Where Harden just is going to Brooklyn to get his rings and get the monkey off his back, get the critics off his back who say he's never gotten the jewelry, and then he'll go do whatever the heck he wants. Once the monkey's off his back, he can go somewhere and average 35 points again and put up all these individual accolades and break all these records and stuff. I mean, that's what that interview made me wonder. Now, it's possible Harden was saying, you know, leaving KD and Kyrie would be hard, as in it's so hard I can't even imagine doing that, you know. And he did tell the Yes Network, I don't see myself anywhere else, honestly. That's what he said. So ultimately, I feel like Harden's going to stay in Brooklyn, and I think this is about finances, all right? Because if he were to sign his contract extension, over the next 4 years, he would be paid about $208 million over 4 years. If he waits and signs after the season, it'll be 5 years, $270 million. So clearly there's a financial reason for him not to sign right now. And ultimately, you know, barring some disaster this season, I do think he'll stay in Brooklyn because, Nick, where in the world is he going?
Well, I don't know. I mean, bigger disaster than last season, because last season they couldn't make the conference finals. But I understand the defending champion Brooklyn Nets. The defending champion Brooklyn Nets, who actually were not one of the Final Four teams standing. But I get it. So here's the thing. If it was just money, he'd have said that. We have heard guys say, listen, I'm staying, but financially it makes no sense for me to sign early, so I'm going to wait. He did not say that. Also, another point of order here. He did not pick the Brooklyn Nets. They were on his short list, but he was fine with and prepared to be traded to Philly, if you remember. When he said Houston, it wasn't trade me to Brooklyn or nowhere or I'm not going anywhere. It was KD and Kyrie that picked the Nets. KD set up his business empire in New York City. Kyrie's from Jersey. Harden's an LA guy. And so there is a universe that exists that things go totally haywire with Kyrie, that the Nets once again disappoint as they did last year, and Harden's like, nah, not really for me. And all of a sudden in that universe, the big three in Brooklyn is Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton. I'm not predicting that, but that's not out of the realm of possibility. So my answer, Wilds, is this is ominous. No, I'm not hoping. I don't hope for anything like that, man. I'd love to see a Lakers-Nets NBA Finals the way the rest of the world would. Unfortunately, the Nets aren't better than Milwaukee, so they're not going to be able to get there. But I think this is ominous, Wilds, because this is not getting resolved until after the season. And if you guys are talking about if he wins a ring, maybe he leaves. I think it's maybe more the other way. If he doesn't win a ring and he's not scoring 35, then it's like, wait, the game's not as fun and I'm not winning. So, like, what's happening here? So I think it's ominous, Wilds.
All right, so my answer was back-to-back question mark. Because I think if he does win a ring, he's more likely to leave, Broussard. Because this would be a yeah-but ring. Giannis doesn't have a yeah-but ring. And the yeah-but ring is when you win, but it's like, yeah, but, you know, you had this guy, you had Steph on the team. So people without yeah-but ring, Steph doesn't have a yeah-but, Giannis, Kawhi, so like LeBron, of course. But this one would be like, yeah, but he had Durant. I think once he gets one, he's going to want to go somewhere else and establish his legacy. It's going to be just like KD, where you get one, but you're like, oh man, people aren't giving me enough credit that I thought that I was going to get. He's going to end up looking to go somewhere else. I thought it's fascinating, and if I had to put money on it, I bet he leaves.
Wow. Bet he leaves. That's how I feel about my two Emmys. The old yeah, but. Back talking Patrick Mahomes. We'll move right on from that sentence. Two straight L's for Knicks Chiefs. Does that mean Mahomes is under the most duress headed into week 4? Chris Broussard breaking out his list next. First things first.
You all right, Nick? You nervous?
Under duress. Each Thursday, Chris Broussard takes us through which players, coaches, maybe even general managers need a big-time performance. Plenty of them facing the pressure of a slower start than expected through 3 weeks. So, Chris Broussard, which 5 guys are under the most duress entering week 4?
Well, Jenna, I think I'm going to hurt some feelings on the panel, and it'll start with Nick Wright. Nick, I'm sorry to pile on, but it starts with number 5, Patrick Mahomes. You can deny it all you want.
Oh, this
He's
is stupid.
under duress. All right? He's got a losing record for the first time. Losing record for the first time in his career. All right? And he is actually getting something close to criticism for the first time in his career for that unnecessary no-look pass that ended up in an interception, and then the late interception that led the Chargers on their way to their game-winning drive. That's not to mention the horrible defense that he has to make up for. He's got to score like 35, 40 points every weekend to get a win with that defense, so the pressure's on there. And then you got the division. You got 2 undefeated teams in the division. So if they somehow don't shine bright and lose this game to Philadelphia, you can't afford to go 1-3 in the tough AFC West anymore, Nick. The pressure's on. Number 4, Pete Carroll. And look, I'm not saying Pete Carroll's on the hot seat. He's not. We know he's not going to lose his job. But the defense, Pete, the defense. What in the world is going on? The defense has been bad to mediocre for the last 4 years, and now it's graduated to abysmal. Okay? They can't get off the field. Russ is cooking. The offense is fine. Russ is doing his thing, but they are dead last in the league in time of possession. 23 minutes, 20 seconds. That's it. Russ isn't getting enough opportunities because of that D. So I'm putting it on Pete Carroll and the defensive coordinator, Ken Norton Jr., to fix the defense. Again, you're in a tough division. NFC West, maybe the best in the league. You can't afford to go 1-3. So you better get your act together. All right, number 3, Big Ben Roethlisberger. Look, this is arguably the most beleaguered non-rookie quarterback in the NFL. I mean, every day Nick Wright's making fun of him. He's stumbling all over the place. And look, they got a solid defense. So the brunt of the criticism is falling on Big Ben. Why can't he get it done? They're only averaging 16 points a game. That's the worst of his illustrious Hall of Fame career over 18 years. So I know it's not all on Ben. The offensive line is not good. They got no running game. However, Big Ben needs to play much better. All right, and if he doesn't, because they got some tough games coming up. They're 1-2. All right, they got Green Bay, Denver, Seattle, and Cleveland. That 1-2 could become 1-6 in a hurry if Ben doesn't get it together, and then it probably would mean the end of his organized football career. So Big Ben definitely under duress. At number 2, Wilds, I'm sorry to hit you. You know, I can see you're emotional about this situation, but it's Bill Belichick. All right, look, whether you blame Brady or Belichick for leaving ultimately, at the end of the day, Belichick at best, was indifferent to keeping his legendary quarterback. He clearly misread Tom Brady. He knows his football game better than anyone else. And he misread, underestimated his quarterback and got rid of him too early. Now, his worst nightmare is about to step on his front porch. Because you know it, Wilds, in front of a national television audience, Tom Brady is going to own Foxborough. He's going to take it over. Standing ovation, video tributes, Tom Brady jerseys everywhere. And it'll be that way the whole game unless Belichick's team steps up and somehow wins. Now look, Belichick's clearly lost the divorce, at least to this point. So a win won't turn the tables. It won't even the score. But it would be a nice little respite to the Tom Brady coronation. It would be a nice little victory for Bill Belichick in this feud. All right, at number 1, he's the first 2-timer on the Under Duress segment now. But Matt Nagy, there's no denying, it's not as sexy as the other stories, but come on. I mean, look, the way he's handled this quarterback situation has been pretty bad. But it got even worse last week when he actually had the audacity to throw Nick Foles in the fold. So it might be Andy Dalton, it might be Justin Fields, it might even be old Nick Foles, who I tried last year and it didn't work. It's getting bad, and I gotta tell you this. There were untold numbers of ex-football players, ex-football coaches on national television absolutely destroying, pillaring Matt Nagy's game plan last week for Justin Fields. I mean, Fields was 6 for 20 for 68 yards. Bad. But they put the blame not on Fields, but they put it on Nagy. All right? That's how bad that game plan was. We know that the Browns were laughing at the game plan, saying that's what helped us sack him so much. So the pressure's on Matt Nagy. Okay. If they don't turn it around quickly, and they need to win. Who they got? They got Detroit.
He's going to get fired. All right,
if you lose to Detroit, that hot seat could turn into an empty seat, and you could be gone. Yeah. Those are the guys under duress. So, Nick. Just accept it.
All right, so here's the thing. I'm delighted that Chris Broussard is such a talented television performer, because that was wildly entertaining, despite being one of the worst lists that's ever been compiled in sports media history.
I agree with that.
This is why you need a committee. This is why it is too big of a task to go it alone. You need the wisdom of crowds. First and foremost, having Mahomes on that list is asinine and indefensible. If someone's under pressure in Kansas City, it's Steve Spagnuolo in the defense, not the guy who's third in the NFL in yards, or sixth in yards, seventh in rating, and third in touchdowns. So can we just cross Patrick Mahomes off that list? Big Ben, you got right, and I'll give you credit for getting right. I would maybe have distorted the picture, like I would maybe widen it so he takes up a little more space than the others. But other than that, Big Ben is correct.
But most importantly,
Bill Belichick needs to be number one with a bullet. Nobody is under more duress and under more pressure this week than Bill Belichick. He is going to be trotting out there Mac Jones and Jonnu Smith while Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski are on the other side of the field. He's going to see Chris Godwin playing for the Bucs. It's like, could we have had him? He was the 84th pick of his draft. Oddly enough, we had the 83rd and 85th picks of that same draft. We took Derek Rivers. How's he helping the Patriots? Oh, wait, never did. A spot ahead of Godwin. You're seeing what you're going to see is a Patriots roster that is bereft of talent, and that usually isn't the coach's fault. But the coach is also the GM there. So however you slice it, this is going to be an indictment on what Belichick's done in New England the last couple of years. And so I almost want to go to Wilds because he's so disgusted by my commentary here. And I'm not, you have Nagy ahead, that's fine, because Nagy could lose his job. But in large part, Broussard, because you have Belichick too, I think you agree with me. So Wilds, what's the issue? What on earth do I have wrong here?
Okay. Well, first of all, we're not going to lose. So the idea that you guys are projecting all of this stuff, we're not going to lose. Second of all, just because Jonnu Smith dropped maybe 4, maybe 5 balls the other day doesn't mean that he's not talented. The tight ends will get together, and Mac Jones is the best rookie quarterback in the NFL. You know what? And you'll tune in tonight. You want to see Trevor Lawrence and tell me if you'd rather have Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones. Not old KW. Okay. So I think Belichick is fine. If he wins this game, Broussard, I think you're right. If he loses this game, oh my God. Bill, change the Wikipedia. Log on. Change it to greatest coach of all time to greatest coach of all time who lost a Week 4 game in 2021. There's no stakes. It's like if Jay-Z puts out an album and it's not totally fantastic. Guess what? You're still really good. His stakes are not going to move at all. He's goated. It is what it is. And he's not going to lose, for the record, Jen. I'm sorry. The guy I would like on there is someone near and dear to my heart. It hurts me to say this, but he belongs on here. It's my guy, Double J, Joe Judge. And if we can play the sound where Joe Judge, the guy delivers a heck of a press conference. But if we can play the sound from my guy, Double J, and I'll come back after that.
The analytics is just a tool. It's nice to look at the numbers and how they go through the flow of the game, but the analytics changes based on the opponent, based on who you have available for the game, and how the flow of the game's going too. You can look at a stat sheet all you want. I promise you, if XL was going to win football games, Bill Gates would be killing it right now.
Buddy, key mistake. Never try to be clever in the press conference, because then you put it out on Twitter and people out-clever you. Wisdom of crowds, like a committee. That's why you need one, Broussard. People are like, yeah, you know how many wins Bill Gates has this year? 0, just like you, Joe Judge. I'm like, oh, Judge, you stepped right into that one. Here's the thing about Joe Judge, why he needs to be super worried. A, playing Mike Tomlin, who's desperate for a win. He delivered a great press conference the other day. Can't go to 0-4, because you know who's you got to be worried about, and this is unique to Giants football, the Jets. The Giants' mediocrity has floated up here a little bit just because they haven't been the laughingstock of the NFL like the Jets have. It's like if you're a terrible dresser, but your friend is even a worse dresser. You look around like, I'm a pretty good dresser. You're not. Your friend is just the worst dresser we've ever seen. If you get out in the world and all of a sudden your friend decides to put on a tie, you're like, uh-oh, you're the worst dresser. Joe, this is not a rebuilding year. This is a year for Daniel Jones to make a break. You signed Kenny Golladay. Where's he been? It's supposed to be a big wide receiver acquisition. Saquon is back. We're running out of excuses, so eventually Giants leadership is going to look around and be like, the guy delivers great press conferences. Maybe we'll make him our PR director rather than our head coach. Joe Judge, you're under duress. Hurts me to say it. Got to get a win this week, buddy. Double J. Once a Patriot, always a Patriot. Rooting for you. Got to win.
Yep.
He is under duress, Wiles. That's not a bad one. He was number 6, all right? He's under duress. I like the quote from, but this is a rebuilding year. Make no mistake. All right, let me address Nick Wright. Look, you're not helping your buddy Patrick Mahomes and your beloved Kansas City Chiefs by babying them. All right, it's time for some tough love, Nick. Put the pressure on them. They got to deliver. You're just patting them on the back. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I know we got beat. I know you didn't play well. I know you're throwing no looks. It's fine. It's okay. It's going to get better. That's not what they need.
The no look was a good play.
They need tough love. They need a kick in the hiney, Nick.
I'm going to kill you.
And if it comes from you, if you get on national television and give them a kick in the tail, I bet you it'll make a difference. And Nagy's going to get fired. That's why he's number 1. I mean, Belichick's not going to lose his job.
While our family discusses this, we got to talk about a different family, a family reunion in Foxborough on Sunday. Not every family gets along like ours does. Can Belichick spoil Brady's return to New England? We got the man, Coach Mangini, joining us on the other side. Cannot wait. First things first. First things first, talking about the most anticipated family reunion in years. Bucs Patriots, Brady Belichick, friends and or foes, we'll never really know. Fox Bet Sportsbook has Tampa favored by 7 points Sunday night in Foxborough. So much familiarity between coach and quarterback. They only dominated the league for like 20 years. So it only makes sense the mind games between the two will be on point as soon as Tom steps on the field Sunday night. Just ask Bill Belichick.
Certainly Tom has an intimate knowledge of everything that we do here, more so than any other player in the league by far. So I'm sure he'll use it to his advantage. I would expect him to. I don't think it would be in our best interest to go in there and, do everything differently than we've done it all year. I think what we need to do is continue to do things that we do and do them better. That would help us more than anything else. So we'll try to do.
Such a zealous man. And with that, we welcome in our coach, our mind game specialist, our big game guru, former Patriots coach, Eric Mangini. Coach, good morning to you. Welcome. What is Belichick telling his team as they head into Sunday's game? I have to imagine it's something more than, if you guys get a chance, can you please do me a solid and beat Brady? I feel like it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, it might be a little bit more specific than that. It's so strange to talk about New England upsetting Tampa Bay, especially considering the fact that they're home. There's so many intriguing things about this game, but let's start with New England's offense and what they're going to have to do to beat Tampa, and it starts with Mac Jones, and he's really going to have to be able to deal with pressure and tight man-to-man coverage. They haven't given up a ton of sacks, but they're one of the worst teams in the league in terms of quarterback hurries and the amount of times he's getting hit. So what happens with young players is when they show a weakness, everybody's going to attack that weakness until you show that it's fixed. And the tight man coverage, people are going to play that until you show that you can take advantage of it and actually throw the ball down the field. So let's take a look at a play from the New Orleans game And in this example, New Orleans gets up and they've got 8 potential blitzers that can come. So they can bring pressure from a lot of different ways, and that's something that Mac Jones has to sort out at the line of scrimmage. And then there's the tight man-to-man coverage. And the reason you like this is because now there's no easy and quick answers for Mac Jones. He can't just get rid of the ball right now. So he's got to hold the ball a little longer, and New Orleans ends up only bringing 5 players. But you can see as he tries to step up, he gets hit, the ball flutters, and now it's an interception. And this is going to continue to happen throughout the course of the year until he shows that he can handle pressure and until he shows that he can throw the ball down the field against tight man-to-man coverage and make him pay. Everybody's going to do it. So that's his challenge. And then in terms of the Patriots defense, their challenge is a little bit different. And I know Bill said we're going to do what we do and we're going to do it a little bit better. Yeah, not necessarily. They're going to have to disguise their coverage against Brady, because if he knows, it goes. And he's the best at this. And he does have intimate knowledge of what they do. So the disguise is the first thing they have to do. And then the second thing is they've got to be able to push the pocket. And I'll show you an example of New England doing a good job of this and something that could carry over. And this is a play against Miami. It's in the end of the first half. And the concept will carry over, with pushing the pocket. And what you're going to see is here's the disguise element. They only have 1 player down. They've got 1 defensive lineman down. Everybody else is standing up, so they could either rush, they could drop, you could mix it up. And then they put Judon and Uche inside. These are the 2 team leaders in sacks. Now they can work the guards, they can work games, do a lot of things with them. Here comes the internal pressure. They're going to bring the defensive back internally and try to get the quarterback off the spot. Now what happens is the back free releases, so the outside linebacker is going to peel with the back, and the defensive back is going to wrap around. But at the end of the day, this is the result. You've got pressure in the middle of the pocket, you're pushing the pocket, and they're not worried about containing. You can run left, you can run right, and usually when I'm talking about Mahomes, it's so important to keep in the pocket. This is exactly opposite. And now here it is. Can the money that you spent beat the money that you saved? And they're going to need big plays out of a guy like Matt Judon, and then he's going to have to produce at a very high level. But in order for them to be successful, doing what you do and doing it better, that's not really the formula. But look, you can't expect Bill to talk about what they're going to do, but it's got to look different, and it's got to look different throughout the course of the game.
That's it.
All right, that was excellent, as these have been every week. I look forward to this every Thursday. Can we go back though to the first play, the play with the Patriots offense? Because and we can roll it while I ask Coach a question. I think my question is, can the Patriots receivers beat man-to-man? Because if you watch Jacoby Myers on this play, he's number 16. He's supposed to run a rub route and get someone else open, essentially set a pick. He gets picked. He's the one who gets picked. He spins around, doesn't finish his route, and we don't play this to the end. And then he, what I would call, lightly jogs after the interceptor. Like, doesn't even run after him to try to stop him. It's a disastrous play by Jacoby Myers. You're like, well, it's Jacoby Myers. Yeah, but all the Patriots receivers are Jacoby Myers. They just go by Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, N'Keal Harry. They're all the same guy. Like, my question, Coach, is do they have the personnel, even if you handle the blitz or handle the rush, to beat tight man-to-man coverage? Because Jacoby Myers on the tilt-a-whirl there, and what are you going to do?
Well, look, I think you're being a little harsh on Jacoby Myers. I actually think he's done a really good job and does get open a lot of times, and he was open here. And look, this is a man beater. You're trying to rub off the defender and go nice and close to him. You don't want to get knocked out while you're doing it or knocked back while you're doing it. Yeah. And there's things that you can do formationally to beat man-to-man coverage, stacks, bunches. There's a lot of things. Look, Josh McDaniels does a great job with game planning, but it comes down to the outside in a lot of ways. You've got to hit somebody deep. You've got to make somebody pay deep in order for people to start thinking twice about doing it. And they haven't done that. They've thrown the ball deep, but they haven't hit it. And the NFL is unforgiving.
They've hit
you
some
will get
cheerleaders.
volume and volume and volume of whatever your weakness is until you make somebody pay and until you show you fix that weakness.
All right, Coach, I love the points. I thought they were great. It was a great game plan. But I think it does fall under the category of Mike Tyson's everybody's got a plan until they get hit. All right, and I think Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are going to put it on New England badly. I think Brady, I'm predicting 350 to 450 yards and 4 touchdowns. You know Brady well. How much do you think he wants to go out there and not just win the game, but really punish New England and look great individually while doing it?
Yeah, without a doubt, he wants to do that, and he's, if he can hang 50, he'll hang 50. And look, Bruce Arians, I'm sure, has a little motivation too. You heard in the press conference that it's not Bruce Arians' offense, it's New England's offense, and once they put New England's offense in, that's when they started to win. So I'm sure he doesn't feel excited about that comment or happy that was said. And when you go against a New England defense, when you go against Bill, you appreciate it because it's game plan specific. It's well thought out. The guys are disciplined. They're smart. They can do multiple things. So it's different than playing a defense that's just vanilla. When you beat this defense, there's a level of accomplishment that's distinct from other defenses around the league. And look, Tom's the best of the best at identifying what you do and then attacking it. Now, the other thing I'd say is New England should probably play something different in the second half that they didn't show in the first half, because when Tom goes into the locker room and talks about it, he'll come out and be able to light it up even more. And we used to do that sometimes against Peyton Manning. Do one thing in the first half, let him go talk about it, come out and do something totally different in the second half.
Yeah. They'll probably want to switch it up.
Brady and Belichick is more Princess Bride.
I agree.
Than anything else. It really is. Oh, you think he's going to do that? I know he thinks what I think I'm going to do. Coach, stay right here. We got much more Patriots talk still to come. Probably butchered that line. Why wouldn't Bill Belichick meet face-to-face with Tom Brady before they went their separate ways? We'll ask these guys next. This is First Things First. Oh, how about tonight? It's a battle between number one picks on NFL Network. Trevor Lawrence, your guy, Nick. Trevor Lawrence making his primetime debut with the Jaguars against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Week 4 begins tonight. 8 Eastern.
Mark
5 Pacific. Only on NFL Network. All right, let's see. We shall see. The action heating up Sunday in the NFL. Terry Bradshaw giving away another $100,000. Download the Super 6 app. Play along with us for free. Giants at Saints is one of the matchups. 91% of America picking New Orleans thus far. Nick, who wins and by how many points?
I'm actually more interested in the 9% of America that's picking the Giants. Do you not want to win the contest? The Saints are going to win. The question is by how many? I'll say the Saints by 7. Saints by 7, Broussard.
Yeah, look, I do think the Giants are come out with a spirited effort. And, I was going to say 7. I'll go to be different. I'll say not the Giants. The Giants going to lose, but they'll be spirited. Saints by 10.
Oh, no. I'm Saints by 10. Wow, I got to go higher. Well, I got to go Saints by 11 then. We saw the Saints defense torment Aaron Rodgers and torment Mac Jones, two of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL. They're going to torment Daniel Jones. Saints by 11.
All right, here's how you do it. See that QR code right there? Scan it, download the Fox Bet Super 6 app, correctly predict 6 NFL games for your shot to win, and then come back tomorrow and see who was right. Super simple. All right, moving on. Time now for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve the long-awaited, highly anticipated Bucks Patriots. Sunday night, Brady's return to Foxborough. A new book out now, detailing the Patriots' dynasty during Brady and Belichick's 20-year run together, and how that relationship between GOAT QB and GOAT coach deteriorated at the end. One excerpt had Brady wanting to have a face-to-face meeting with Belichick before officially leaving town, but Bill would not make himself available. Instead, said they should talk on the phone. Belichick was asked about that yesterday. Take a listen.
No, that's not true. And I heard a few things about, this book, and sounds like it's a lot of, second, third, and fourth hand comments. So, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to focus on this game and try to prepare for the Bucs.
He's focused. Nick, what was your reaction to the latest report now on Brady and Belichick?
Listen, even though we know Belichick is cold and calculating and, is seemingly, when it comes to his football team, emotionless, and this kind of fits the bill for that, this is surprising, especially given the fact I know people have compared this to a divorce, and I have friends who have gotten divorced. I have one friend that particularly in mind. They didn't have kids together. Once they said in the moment, we're getting a divorce, he's never seen his ex-wife again. He needed a cold break, thought it was what was best, and that was that. But this is more like a divorce with kids, where it's like, okay, we are going to be in each other's lives. Belichick is going to see Tom Brady at the Hall of Fame. He is going to see Tom Brady at celebrations for the Patriots for the rest of their lives. And by the way, he knew Brady wasn't retiring. He knew a game such as this one was very possible. So in that regard, it is incredibly odd that you wouldn't sit down together and say goodbye and try to leave on the best terms possible. I would have understood Wildes more if Brady had said, I don't want to meet with you, because Brady is the one who feels like he was pushed out. Brady wanted to stay a Patriot, and Belichick wanted him to stay a Patriot under certain conditions, under year-to-year commitments rather than a 5-year or a commitment that would take him to age 45. So yes, Brady chose to leave, but Belichick opened the door and packed his bags and said, well, you leave it or not. So if Brady would have been the one like, nah, bleep you, man, I don't want to see you, that I would have understood at least a little bit. But Belichick doing it, I think it further goes to show Wildes that Belichick never acknowledged Brady's different than any player he's ever coached and needed to be treated as such. He needed not to be held to the exact same rules, not to be used the exact same age, production, salary metrics he used with everyone else. And had he recognized that, they wouldn't have ever needed to meet to say goodbye, because they would have never said goodbye, and the Patriots wouldn't be trotting out there a bottom 5 offense in football right now.
Okay. A bottom 5 offense right now, that's the key, so I'm okay with that. Here's the thing. What I don't think Bill Belichick is into, and I don't know Bill Belichick personally, charades. Not the game charades, just say charade. I don't think he's a great actor, although I do think he did a fine job in that Subway commercial. We knew Tom Brady was going to leave, and since 2018, when Seth Wickersham, same author of this, wrote this book, said, hey, there's some problems up in Foxborough, and the problems were this. Bill Belichick's bracing coaching style, Alex Guerrero and TB12 kind of like getting into Belichick's domain, and Jimmy Garoppolo. Those were the kind of the big things of this article. This was 2018. They won another Super Bowl after this. Then Brady puts his house up for sale, and then finally in March, he decides to leave. So if Seth Wickersham in the world at large knew it in 2018, Broussard, when do you think Bill Belichick knew things were going downhill? Prior to Seth, probably. And do you think that if you have a relationship that's going downhill for 3 years, that you need some sort of, hey, let's sit down and have a moment together to say goodbye. Let's have a firm handshake. We're not on Hard Knocks. That's how you cut the 54th guy on the roster. I think the telephone call, especially if it was a landline, is totally fine. I don't think Bill Belichick needs the charade of a face-to-face.
Wildes, I'm with Nick on this one. Look, Belichick didn't break any laws, all right? He didn't break any rules. It is okay to do that. But Nick brought up divorce. It's like if you were about to get divorced, you're going to tell your spouse you want a divorce, and you do it over the telephone rather than giving them the dignity of meeting with them in person. All right, no, that's what you would do after a marriage. It's not just breaking up with a girlfriend. It's a marriage. Yeah,
he put his house up for sale, so it's like that was the defining moment of the divorce. It's like that to me, it wasn't the decision was made far before whether or not we should have a phone call. Do you buy that?
Well, the decision was made because he felt like he was being pushed out. He didn't like the way he was being treated. And Wildes, remember this. The Patriots did offer him a contract extension. Now, it had voided years on it, but it still was a contract extension. So they evidently had, like I said, Bill was indifferent to it. All right, and that's what rubbed Brady the wrong way. But look, Brady and the story, the book as well said that they did a commission, that Belichick commissioned a study of the greatest winners of this generation: Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods, and now Tom Brady. And Brady, it came out that Brady, unlike the other ones, was at his best not when he had a chip on his shoulder, but when he was in a loving, supportive environment. Now, that seems to be opposite of what he had in New England, and he thrived in New England with the 6 championships. But I do think it speaks to Brady's personality, that he is a guy that's into relationships. He's into friendships. You clearly see how in the environment in Tampa Bay, where I would say it is more loving and supportive, he's having a ball. All right? And this just illustrates the difference in the two, Nick. Brady, more relationship-oriented. Belichick, don't get emotionally attached to your players. And their last phone call just kind of illustrates the difference in the two.
But you just laid it out. That's who Brady is. That's who Belichick is. So, Nick, does this really come as that big of a surprise to you that on his way out, his final hoorah, he wants it to be over the phone and not in person? We've all seen Belichick's press conferences. He's not a one-on-one, person-to-person kind of guy. It doesn't feel like this is that surprising.
Yeah, but that's because he's dealing with media members who he doesn't care about versus the person who is most directly responsible for his entire career. Listen, Belichick is responsible for his own career, but if you're going to say, okay, other than Bill himself, who's the most responsible for Belichick having 6 Super Bowls, everyone would say it's Tom Brady. If Tom, I'm not surprised Bill didn't say, hey, let's meet for coffee. I'm a little surprised that if Tom said, I want to meet for coffee, or at your office or wherever, that Bill said, nah, bruh. Well, let's do a Zoom call. Actually, back then, Zoom wasn't even a thing, just a regular phone call. And Wilds, I love you. But after this weekend's game, I am going to hope and pray we can stop with the talking point that Tom Brady put his house for sale as if it's not possible to buy houses. Like, well, once you put your house for sale, that means you must move. I looked it up while you were talking.
Come on.
Right now in Boston, there are 12 $10 million houses available. So if you really, it's not like, well, I'd love to stay, Bill, but I put my house on the market. We've got a realtor coming over now. You know what I mean? My hands are tied. People sell houses. Rich people buy and sell houses all the time. This idea that was scorching the earth by listing his home on $1 million listings is not a thing. It's just a thing Patriot fans tell themselves so they can blame Tom a little bit, Jenna. It's not a thing. Not a real thing.
All right, we got to be nice to Wild. There's a few days left until this game, and then we can put that behind us.
Got 11 bedrooms.
Skip and Shannon continue the conversation. Undisputed coming up
Beacon
right now.
Street. 16 million.